On July 14, 2021, the Board of Governors for the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education unanimously voted in favor of the integration of 3 of its universities. These universities being Lock Haven University, Bloomsburg University, and Mansfield University. To answer many of the questions that are still out in the open regarding integration, we interviewed Dr. Rick Goulet and Doug Spatafor here at LHU.
My name is Dr. Rick Goulet. I'm Associate Professor of History here at Lock Haven University. I have been here, this is my 21st year at the university, and this past spring I was elected as president of the local chapter of APSCUF, which is the faculty union here at here at Lock Haven. And of course, as it's the state faculty union for all of the PASHE schools of the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education.
So, with you being the president for APSCUF here at the university, what is APSCUF's role to assisting faculty?
So, as the faculty union, we represent the faculty and coaches. It's a union for the faculty and coaches, and through our collective bargaining agreement, our CBA, that we negotiate with the Chancellor's office, who leads the state system of higher education. Usually these agreements are between 3 and 4 years, and they basically determine, they represent the faculty in terms of our work, what's entailed in our work, our compensation, obviously, how much we're paid, benefits, these sorts of things. So, as the president of the faculty union, I am the representative of the contingent of faculty and coaches here at Lock Haven. There's 14 universities in the state system of higher education, and each of these universities has a local faculty union chapter, of which there's 14 different presidents at these different campuses. And so we represent faculty and coaches in terms of the work relations and here on campus.
So with the integration being one of the biggest things in our Lock Haven news right now, as it's slowly coming through in progression, how is the APSCUF organization viewing the integration?
Well, that is a big question, and since it's a process that began, quite a while ago, about 18 months ago or so, there's a bit of a history in terms of how APSCUF has been represented. And there's been a little bit of a difference between our local APSCUF and our larger union. So in the sense that when it was first announced that there were plans, that the Chancellor's office had plans for what he calls integration, which we call consolidation of the 3 universities in the Northeast, which being Mansfield, Bloomsburg, and Lock Haven. Our local union, and I wasn't the president at that time, but I was supportive. I've been active in the faculty union for quite some time. We did not think this was going to be a good, process for Lock Haven University. Part of the impetus for the Chancellor pursuing these integrations, these consolidations, these mergers, if you will, in the Northeast, and then there's 3 universities in the West: Edinburgh, California, and Clarion, universities. They were first sort of imagined as a ways of the system to save money, to become more efficient, and it's a long part of it's part of a longer process called system redesign. Lock Haven, in terms of it, in comparison to Bloomsburg and Mansfield, while certainly one of the reasons is that the Chancellor would points out in the arguments he makes is that the enrollment declines at actually most universities, but especially in places like Lock Haven or Mansfield, that this was a way to try to deal with these. Both locally and at the state level, the faculty union, of course, has had problems with the kinds of numbers that the chancellor has used to argue that of why these integrations are needed. Alongside of this is also a push by the chancellor, and this is where his office will basically try to separate. He has pushed for financial sustainability to be achieved at all of the system schools. And in order to ensure this, he has mandated that all schools hit certain metrics like student to faculty ratio, number of programs. And in terms of his modeling, he uses a system that has been used at Westchester University that imposes a type of approach that doesn't necessarily fit some of the smaller schools like Lock Haven or Mansfield. But he uses this sort of imposed framework to basically push, what we would say an agenda to what's leading to retrenchment of faculty. That faculty are actually being, at this point, they're being given letters of intent to retrench. And retrench is just a fancy academic word for being fired, right? So right now, there are 23 letters of intent to retrench faculty. While the administration and including the chancellor's office, claims that these processes are separate, right? The financial sustainability with the consolidation, with the merger process, right? The faculty union really sees this as that these are impossible to completely separate, right? So I don't want to go into too many details. But in the long run, to get back to your question, and I apologize for sort of going off.
No problem.
Like I said, it'll take a little while to give some background. But in terms of the local faculty union, we've always been concerned that this consolidation is not going to be in the best interests of Lock Haven itself. And through the process and continuing as well, there's a lot of unanswered questions, right, in terms of how this will impact not only the faculty, but of course the students as well. And we've always argued that, Lock Haven actually came up with a sustainability plan under our previous President Robert Pignatello. It was a 5-year sustainability plan that wouldn't have required any faculty to get retrenched. And it was a good plan, but the chancellor basically rejected that plan, and now our Dr. Pignatello is not the president anymore, as I'm sure you know. And an accelerated plan of financial sustainability was in a sense imposed. This in connection, together with consolidation, is just continually bringing up a lot of unanswered questions, right? And many of them are related to the continuing viability of certain programs, right? So while the administration and the chancellor's office as well, but also local administration, tout, of course, the increased opportunities that will be offered through consolidation to students. In a way, yes, but what they usually don't offer is that many of those opportunities are going to be only available through increased online classes, right? Where, sure, you might have an opportunity to do a major that is largely, where most of the faculty are in Bloomsburg University, but you can do it here, but you'll be taking a lot of those classes via distance education, via online learning. And what the pandemic, of course, has demonstrated to many of us is that while this is sometimes can be, useful, most of our students, at least, I think most of our faculty would say most of our students, prefer actually coming to class, more in person, face-to-face education. you know, some online classes, yes, but you know, when your professors for a major are going to be at a different location, you're going to be taking more online classes, right? So this is all, you know, in the future, right? And so this is all, but you know, how that will work out, how, you know, if they continue to, you know, if it leads to the retrenchment of more faculty and programs. Right now, there's about a dozen programs that are slated for moratoria, meaning that they're going to stop existing at Lock Haven University for the next year. Once integration happens, there is talk that these majors will resurrect, if you will, but how that is all going to happen, there's still lots of questions. There's been concern right from the very beginning about athletics, right? The NCAA has yet to make decisions as to if all athletic teams in all three universities will be able to, you know, function. That, of course, the talk is that's the hope of everybody, but that decision has not been made yet. There's all kinds of issues in terms of what is called accreditation issues. There's a body that accredits, you know, basically, you know, for Mansfield, Lock Haven, and Bloomsburg. These universities are accredited by an agency called the Middle States, it's called, and it's a process by which basically the university is accredited to actually be a university and give classes. Well, this consolidation into one university has to go through that process. So we're all hopeful that's going to happen, right? But there's a lot of question marks and a lot of unknowns, if you will. Yes, there's a lot of problems. And then, you know, to go back to the beginning of the question, while locally we thought that there was still plenty that Lock Haven could do by itself, we were on our way in this 5-year plan to increasing enrollment, right? We had the early markers, you know, of that plan was looking good. But then, of course, the pandemic occurred, and that has had a huge impact on things. And rather than sort of slow down and wait for the pandemic to in a sense play out, the chancellor and local administration have just pushed forward with this whole process amidst the global pandemic. So locally, we did not think consolidation was going to, was the best plan for Lock Haven University. When the Board of Governors this past July 15th approved of this consolidation plan, that basically, in a sense, seals it, because, the Board of Governors is the body that basically, despite, there was a fair bit of public comment period, all of the comments were either against consolidation or basically to slow down, right, to go slower. There was like almost no public comments in favor, right? The positive in favor. So it's not just, local faculty. It was a lot of different groups around the state that were not for this consolidation. The Board of Governors, in my view, chose to ignore all of those, those voices, including several students. Several students from Lock Haven University also spoke out against it. And despite that, the Board of Governors voted 15-0 to go ahead with consolidation. So, so it's proceeding. I don't think it's going forward. Now locally, of course, in a sense, we've accepted it. We don't necessarily like it, but now we're going to work towards trying to make it, work for the best of students, right, and faculty and coaches and staff, and for the university as a whole. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
More than enough. With that, however, you were mentioning these unanswered questions that
Yes.
not only faculty and coaches but students also have, and that's
Absolutely.
what this whole process and this whole interview will be about, is
Okay.
to give these students a better understanding, because it was something that, even though a lot of us spoke out about,
Yeah.
not a lot of us were in as much as the understanding, because from the university side of it, we got emails every month
Yeah.
or two about the integration process and how it will roll through.
Right.
But it's still this gray area for students in these smaller majors,
Yeah.
like physics, to say the least,
That's right.
is
Yeah.
one of the more smaller majors, and they are getting consolidated down, as well as many other majors on campus with these lower numbers. And I know through all of the pandemic, we've been witnessing these students complaining about these online courses, and so
Yeah.
with these online courses being offered at other universities, is it going to have the same effect as it did over the pandemic, or are we going to see students coming to a more acceptance over it?
Yeah.
With that, are you viewing this on this for student side as a good opportunity to broaden horizons?
Well, like most things, there's pros and cons in the sense that for some students, it might be, an expansion of certain opportunities. For those students who, do well with online classes, it might actually be a positive for them to, come to, if especially if they're local, right? If they live in the area, they come to Lock Haven for some classes, but they have the opportunity now to pursue a different major that Lock Haven perhaps had not offered, taking those classes mostly online, right, sort of from Bloomsburg or Mansfield. So for some students, it might be a positive. For many students, however, I think, that are not so keen on online classes, that really would prefer to pursue a major, maybe that's why they came here in the first place, right? They liked the university, it had a major to offer them, and they want to come and take these classes face to face, right? So, and you point out a very good one. Physics right now is, slated for moratorium. While there is commitment from the administration to what is called teach out those students, meaning that there's a commitment that if you came in, let's say last year as a physics major, right? Well, the university is committed to giving you an opportunity to finish that degree, right? Like as you began it, right? For mostly, in person and, finish out degree. So that's a commitment that the university does make to students that, might even be in a program that is in moratorium, that's coming to an end at the university, and before it kind of starts again in the new integrated university, there's a commitment to teach out, right? But, that's a pretty, kind of somewhat unstable sort of future. There's a lot of questions that brings out. But and in terms of the transition of the different majors, yes, there's a lot of uncertainty. But so it's not that some of these opportunities won't be there. There will be. There will be some opportunities, but at the same time, there will be also some lesser opportunities to pursue as many majors here and pursue them with face-to-face classes with professors here, right? So if you want to do your entire degree here, depending on the major you're interested in, that opportunity may not be so available. But if you're interested in a major that wasn't offered here, but now was, offered at Bloomsburg, well, you can pursue that major, understanding that, probably a significant number of your classes will be through online education. So, like many things, there's no black and white, answers, if you will. And so it kind of depends on each student's situation. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yep, of course. And thank you as well as for giving myself and the students that will be viewing these interviews a better understanding of what their future could be or what they will be seeing after they graduate with their former alma mater.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome. And I've seen these emails that students receive from the administration, right? And obviously, I understand from their perspective, they are going to, they are somewhat aspirational in that, nobody knows all of the answers yet. This is a very complicated process, this whole integration process, and we are in many ways just at the beginning of it, right? So there's gonna be lots of opportunities to kind of, have these discussions as we go along, because nobody can absolutely predict how it's all gonna turn out, But of course, that gives, that's one of the problems that we see, right? That we weren't, it's not clear as to how this is all going to happen, despite the more aspirational, missives, right? Messages that the administration said that this is, this can be great, this is all these opportunities, well, there's a little bit more, there's more questions and trepidation that, that understandably they're not necessarily gonna go. Although they have said that they're hoping that, for instance, that athletics will turn out the way that they envision, but unfortunately we don't have many of those answers yet. So you're very welcome.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, you're welcome.
Doug Spatafor, Senior Director of Athletic Communications and Marketing at Lock Haven University.
So thank you for your time today. This project is to give students a better understanding of the integration process here that's happening at the university. So for the first question, I just want to ask, how will the integration affect opportunities that students have with athletics across the triad of universities?
That's a great question, and obviously athletics is super important on all three campuses here at Lock Haven University, Mansfield and Bloomsburg. And from day one, the goal has been to maintain that. To make sure that we keep athletics on each campus, and that goal has not gone away. That remains the goal, and it is our hope and our plan that athletics stays an important and integral part of all three campuses moving forward.
So with each university still keeping their own sports teams and all that, say if a student wants to take academics at another university so that they would transfer to that university, but they were a member of the Lock Haven Athletics Department, would they have the opportunity then to switch and be a part of the other university's athletics?
So that's a really good question, and that's one that we're still developing those answers. I think the academic array is still being finalized and how it's going to look moving forward on our campus here at Lock Haven and all three campuses in the future. And as far as student athletes moving from campus to campus and transferring, that's going to be some things that we're going to have to finalize as we get the final decision from the NCAA, which we certainly hope comes in spring of 2022.
How has the university made efforts to better the understanding that students have towards integration?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the university, I think here at Lock Haven, I think the other two campuses as well, I think they've really tried to get out in front of this and get as many messages as they can to the campus community, and that included some unique ways of trying to get the information to the students. This is an important thing moving forward, and we want to make sure that the students not only have all the information, but they have a voice as well.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.